Hey there After Effects folks, my name's Ben Rollison and I'm here to demonstrate my new 3D bevel script to you. A script which applies a 3D bevel to a 2.5D surface in After Effects. A bevel which responds dynamically to the position of a light source and to the orientation and the position of the layer itself. Basically, making an After Effects 2.5D layer that little bit more convincingly 3D. Okay. Here's how it works. I've got a very simple setup here with 3 layers in a simple composition. I've got the background and I've got a pre-comp called badge which has this little piece of design in it, and in the main comp that is set as a 3D layer and I've applied a circular mask to it so it becomes round. Very simple. We've got 2 views. We've got the active camera and a custom view so we can sort of skate around and see what's going on, and I've got the script open in the After Effects interface. I've installed it in the scripts UI panels, but you could just as well install it in the scripts folder and run it from the file menu. Well, it's very simple. Let's select the layer we want to bevel, the badge, and we've got 3 boxes. Display. Do we want to just see highlights? Do we want to see shadows, or do we want to see both? A bevel consists out of highlights and shadows, so choose which you want. The rather more cryptically named on, front, back or both, you can choose to display the bevel just on the front of the surface, just on the back, or on both sides. And the other box I'll do from bottom to top. This is the shadow colour, defaults to black. Let's give it a sort of bluish tint. The highlight colour, we'll give it a sort of yellowish tint. And live controls, not quite so self-explanatory. If you have the live controls checkbox checked, then all of this stuff that you've just set will also be available live on the layer after you've run the script as expression controls. If you have live controls off, then you get a much limited set of things that you can adjust after you've run the script. But on the other hand, you have a few less effects on there, it runs a little bit faster and looks a little bit neater. Let me run it first of all with live controls on and we'll go through and see how it works. As you can see, I've run it, we've got a bevel. We've got a light source, a 3D light source, and if we quickly just zip over to the custom view here, I'm going to turn the light source on, and just so that if we turn that completely away with one light source, the surface will go black. So I'm going to put another ambient light source with a low intensity just to lift it above black, and I'll lock that layer. This is the light we're responding to, so let's just bring that back to the front so we can see what's going on. And over in the custom view here you can see approximately what the light is doing and where it is. If I grab it and pull it over this side, you can see that the highlight now hits from this side, and if I swing it down to the bottom you can see it now hits from the lower left corner. And let's just bring that up a little bit over here, and it hits from the lower right corner. And if I just grab the right thing and move it right back up to where we started out at the top. Hang on a second. Sometimes a little bit unintuitive to get around in the After Effects 3D space. There we go, back at the top where we expected. Now, I'm very quickly going to just turn the bevel depth up a touch just to make it a bit more obvious what's going on. Now, the bevel responds not only to the position of the light, but also of course to the position of the layer. You'll see that if I now rotate this, it's the front surface that is being illuminated by the light, whether the front surface happens to be the top or the bottom of the layer. So it's responding. There you go. You also notice that the width of the bevel changes according to the angle from which the light strikes it. That may be an effect that you don't like, and I'll show you how to deal with that in just a second. But first of all, let's just go through the effects that we have. Let me just get that. So the first and the main one is the bevel max depth or intensity. There you can see I've got quite a big maximum depth. A smaller one is often a little bit better, and the intensity sort of speaks for itself. The soften and the anti-alias, let me just come into full res and zoom in. The soften and the anti-alias, well, does exactly that. It just softens the bevel, gives it a sort of much softer effect. Because we're sort of stacking effects one on top of the other, you can sometimes get a slightly ragged edge, and that is solved by putting, say, a 1 pixel blur into the anti-alias. It just softens that edge off and makes it look a little bit more natural. Show highlights is self-explanatory. There we're just showing the shadows. Show shadows, likewise, there we're just showing the highlights. Both sides, well, I'll turn that off. Now we are not showing the bevel on both sides. Let me demonstrate. Flip it round, the bevel's not on the back. If we come to front and back and turn that off, well, hey, now the bevel's not on the front, but if I flip it round, woohoo, it is on the back. We love it. Let's put both sides back on, and the final two are the tint highlight. Yep, you can still change the colour of the highlight and the colour of the shadow. So there we are with a perfectly sort of default black and white setting. Now I'm quickly going to delete all those effects and get rid of the light too, and run the script again without live controls on. Now you can see everything's the same as it was before when we started off, but this time you've got only two things that you can control. You'll notice I didn't actually go into these effects with an X in afterwards. That's because they are not really user controllable effects. That's the motor, if you like. That's the bit that's controlling the effect automatically. These were just the 3D bits that you change. So here we've just got the max depth intensity as before, and we've got the soften and the anti-alias. Now I did mention just before I was going to show you how to stop the old size of the bevel changing as the thing rotates. Just put that to there. Yep, as you remember, depending on the angle that the light strikes from, it tends to get sort of thicker and thinner. If that's not an effect that you like, then do what I just said you shouldn't. Come down to the 3dBx bevel alpha effect and just turn the script off on the edge thickness. That way the thickness of the bevel will stay uniform whatever happens, if that's an effect that you prefer. Or turn it back on. Well, that's pretty much it. I suppose there's a couple of other things I ought to just very quickly show you. First of those is, if you've got more than one layer, let's just make a second version of our badge and stick it over there, select both of them and run the script. Hey presto, we have two layers, both beveled, controlled by one light, and as you can see now I can move the one light around and the bevel is adjusted on both of those layers. Just undo all that. Delete that there for a second, turn that one off. There is another curiosity with text layers. Let's just quickly create a hello text layer, very imaginative. And when you run the script on a live text layer or a live shape layer, it runs slightly differently. I mean, oh, you need to make sure that the layers are 3D, that's why we weren't seeing it up there, I expect. When you run it on a live text layer or a live shape layer, well, it all works just the same. You can see the bevels there and everything's just as it was before. The only difference is the text has been pre-composed, and the same will happen with a shape layer. If you look in your project window, we've got a folder called 3DB pre-comps, and there is that pre-comp. That's just to do with a little idiosyncrasy of how the bevel alpha effect is applied to live shape and text layers. And that's it. I think that's everything there is to know about 3D bevel, is it? I've probably missed something, I usually do. But anyway, I hope you enjoy it. My name's Ben Rollison, thank you for listening, and there'll be more scripts in the future, so watch this space.